Binge or Bin from Independent TV, giving you the lowdown on which TV shows are binge-worthy and which ones are bin-worthy. This week, we've been watching Netflix miniseries The Watcher and the Channel 4 drama Somewhere Boy.
And we'll introduce you to our pick of hidden gems we think you should be watching.
Annabelle!
Jacob, how's it going?
Yeah, all good. Been watching a lot of TV.
Well, let's get stuck in. What have you been watching?
So I've been watching the Netflix show The Watcher, which is yet another show from Ryan Murphy, who obviously recently did the Jeffrey Dahmer show with Evan Peters, which has been a massive hit for Netflix. And not even a month after that, he's unveiled another show. And it's based on an article that appeared in The Cut about a couple who move into their dream home in New Jersey, and then they start getting letters by someone, mysterious figure signed The Watcher, who is stalking them and watching them from afar. So it's a mystery show, and it's that kind of, it's like right for Netflix, isn't it? It's that kind of like based on real life, a dramatization with a really hooky angle. And like I said, Bobby Cannavale, Naomi Watts, you've got Jennifer Coolidge, who is off on she's having a second wind of her career thanks to The White Lotus. Richard Kind, great cast. Shame about the series. Like I say, it's right for Netflix, but I think it's also right for Netflix in that there's no TLC put into this show to make it a show that will satisfy viewers. It's a show that really wants you just to watch it, and it doesn't really care about the quality. It's got you watching it, and that's the main reason why it exists.
I've been put in charge of watching you.
This message will not be the last. I am the Watcher.
Ryan Murphy just wants to churn out these shows. You look at other showrunners who take their time, and I know I talk about Lost a lot, but Damon Lindelof is a good example of this, because he's released 3 shows over the space of 20 years, and they are all brilliant and critically acclaimed, Leftovers and Watchmen being the other 2. Whereas Ryan Murphy, there's 2 in a month. He's got his mitts on all these projects, and I think he's not really looking at the end game in terms of quality. He's not looking at leaving behind a body of work that's going to be well respected. And I find that quite soulless myself. And I think The Watcher, everyone there, Bobby Cannavale and Naomi Watts included, who are decent actors when they're in good things. But here, they're just kind of counting down the hours until they, finish their time on the show and they can clock the Netflix check. So it's harsh, but it's true.
I know. I remember reading that article in The Cut when it came out, and it was just so scary and haunting. And then I watched the series, I watched The Watcher, and I felt like it was just devoid of any of that kind of suspense. And yeah, like you said, if it had been given some TLC, if there had been, I don't know, if the story was just taken a bit more seriously and not given that like Ryan Murphy treatment, it could have been so good. Like all of the elements were there. It's like a horrifying situation that was real. But yeah, that's a shame.
Don't muck with it was pretty much job done already, and then that they botched it is testament to the fact that Ryan Murphy does American Horror Story stuff as well. A handful of those seasons are quite good, never been scary. They've always been hyper stylized, I think, and creepy in their own way, like in moments in isolation. But I think if you want to do an eerie story justice, and Ryan Murphy's name's attached, you better believe it ain't going to be done justice.
Well, I feel like we know where we're going, and I think we both stand on the same page on this, but is The Watcher a binge or a bin?
As a watcher of The Watcher, I decide that this is a bin. It's a big bin. Yeah.
Agreed.
Anyway, I'm hoping you've got something a bit better for us, Annabelle.
I do. I feel like it's the opposite of a Ryan Murphy series. I've been watching Somewhere Boy, which is, it's the kind of show that I think is watched best knowing the least about it. Lewis Gribbon, who is spectacular in this role, and he's like a newcomer. I really haven't seen him in much, but he plays this teenage boy, Danny, who for most of his life has been imprisoned in his house in the countryside with his father, Steve. who has kind of kept him there after suffering like this mental breakdown when his wife, Danny's mother, dies. And to keep him at home, the dad kind of invented these stories of monsters being outside. And so it dips back and forth. Like most great TV these days, I feel like it's hard to pin down the genre of this. The creator, Pete Jackson, he kind of writes it as part coming of age story, part family drama, part thriller. But there's also a really light touch to it as well. There are some really sweet, poignant moments, and also some, like, they're not laugh out loud scenes, but like you will chuckle, and it's just done really well. It's so subtle, and yeah, like we were saying, there's so much like TLC, and you can see that, and you can see all the actors really care. You've got Lewis Gribbon in the lead role. He's a Scottish actor, and I think he was in like this horror comedy called Get Duked, and I think he was also in Trainspotting 2 in a very small role. But other than that, I haven't seen him in anything, and he's just so good in this role. It's definitely a star-making performance from him. You've also got, as Aaron, his kind of reluctant cousin. He's played by actor Samuel Bottomley, and that character, like, some of the best scenes are just between these two boys, these two teenage boys, and this blossoming friendship, and just teaching him the way of the world.
Just be nice to him. He'll settle in.
What is he staying?
You two are going to be as thick as thieves.
But yeah, it makes sense that Somewhere Boy is made by Clerkenwell Films, because it's the same production that was behind the hit series The End of the F***ing World with Jesse Barden. And that was, I remember when that came out, it was a similar thing. Everyone was kind of, the premise wasn't what you, it was just the top, like the surface. And it's a similar thing with this, and it's just a mixing of genres. And similar to that, there's not like a distinct time period. So you're seeing like old school televisions, but there's also smartphones, and it kind of exists in this like timelessness, which is just fun to see on screen, especially now when we're seeing a lot of things that are very like specific to like an era, like Stranger Things effect, like all of this 80s stuff. This is very much just existing without all of that baggage.
Yeah. I'm not on the edge of my seat to find out what you're going to say, but I'm happy to hear it. Is Somewhere Boy binge or a bin?
It's definitely a binge. It's so good. The episodes are 30 minutes long, and there's not many of them. And I mean, you could watch it in installments, but I did binge it and I loved it. And it's just something really special, you know, when something comes across your screen and it actually stands out. And I mean, I think a lot of the TV that we're watching is very enjoyable nowadays, but it doesn't, like, as soon as the credits roll, I kind of completely forget about it. Whereas this is one of those shows where it's something that, like, I'll think about just and recommend to my friends, knowing that they'll also find something special in it.
You know there aren't any monsters, really, don't you?
Your dad wouldn't lie, man.
Let's talk about some hidden gems, shows that we think you might not have heard of, that we think you should fast track to the top of your watch list, or shows that you might have been meaning to watch, and we're just going to give you a help along the way. My one is a goodie. It's Catastrophe, which is the Channel 4 sitcom created and starring Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney. It aired on Channel 4 between 2015 and 2019. It's about an Irish lady and a American guy who meet when the American guy, Rob, is on a business trip in London, and they have a one-night stand, and she gets pregnant. And they decide to have a go of it. They decide to make a go of it, get together, and raise a family. And I think the fun thing about Catastrophe is, firstly, the dynamic between Rob Delaney and Sharon Horgan is just electric. They are obviously really good friends off screen. They work together well as writers, and they work even better together as actors.
You should marry me.
What? Aren't you supposed to fall in love first?
Fewer arranged marriages end in divorce than real ones.
Is that because they end in suicide?
There are other shows out there which are about families and about raising children that it's quite ostracizing if you don't have children, if you're not in the position of the lead characters. Breeders, for example, the first season that I struggled with because of that. I didn't think I was in the right place to watch that show, but Catastrophe, it doesn't really matter. I think the comedy shines through, and there's a great web of supporting characters. You've got some played by Ashley Jensen from Extras, Mark Bonner, who's been in Line of Duty and lots of other things, and of course Carrie Fisher, who plays Rob Delaney's mum in it. And she's just great as she ever was. Rest in peace, obviously. It gets better as it goes on as well. It finds its feet, and it's got a confidence that you know, comedies are, you have to be confident to succeed. And I think comedies grow more confident as they go on, and it means that the first early seasons aren't as strong. Because Catastrophe is certainly brilliant straight away. And I think that's one of the things that makes it stand out.
Will you have sex with me?
But you're crying.
It's fine.
I don't want to have sex with a crying woman.
Really?
No, I'll do it, but get it together.
My hidden gem is called Inside Job, and it was an adult animation from last year. It definitely flew under the radar, and it's kind of part sci-fi comedy, part like workplace comedy. It's created by Shun Sakuchi, who has previously written for shows like Gravity Falls on Disney Plus and also Disenchanted on Netflix. It focuses on the character of Reagan, voiced by Lizzie Kaplan, who is this very socially awkward robotics engineer who works at a company called Cognito Inc. And it's like a shadow government organization that works to cover up conspiracy theories. So it kind of exists in a world where all the conspiracy theories that we hear about, like lizard people and, you know, like a JFK clone, like all of that stuff is real. And she works for a corporation that makes sure it all stays hidden.
Everything you know is a lie, and the people who are really in control are.
Jesus, can we turn on the lights for once?
Some of us have hangovers, all right?
So it's a really fun premise, and it kind of follows her as this team leader, tech genius, who kind of leads her team in ensuring that these government secrets stay hidden. But like I said, it's also a workplace comedy, so there are things like budget cuts and stuff like that come up also. The cast is pretty impressive. You've got Christian Slater, who plays her alcoholic father and former CEO of Cognito Inc. And there's also Brett Gelman, who people will, I mean, his voice is so distinctive, so you'll recognize his voice from things like Stranger Things and also Fleabag. But yeah, Inside Job is one of those shows that actually constitutes the name Hidden Gem. I feel like a lot of people hadn't heard of it, including me. And I love an adult animation, and I feel like all I was watching recently was just, you know, like Rick and Morty again and again. But this one, it's a bit more light-hearted than Rick and Morty, but it still packs punch, and it's just very enjoyable TV.
Suck mud!
Thanks so much for watching Binge or Bin. That's more than enough to keep you going until we see you again next time. Like and comment below, and subscribe for more from independent TV.